Welcome everybody to the North Middlesex Regional School District School Committee meeting on January 16th. The time is 6:03. It's a Thursday. The meeting is being recorded. The next scheduled meeting of the school committee will be held 6 p.m. Thursday, February 6th at 2024. All right. Can I get a motion on the consent? Oh, roll call.
Hold on, Lisa Bloom's in the.
Okay.
You just raised her hand.
Hold on.
Once Lisa joins, we'll do roll call.
Thanks for the help, Will. Thank you.
All right. We have Randy Roush, William Berg, June McNeil, Will Hackler, Lisa Bloom, Nancy Haynes, Brad Morgan, Robin Ivy, and Dr. Reese. May I have a motion on the consent agenda? We have two.
Lisa,
Yes.
sorry, with the consent agenda, I was reviewing the school committee minutes a second time right before the meeting, and I caught something that I don't think was correct. So if we can maybe pull them, or I can just say what's, I don't know if we can correct them on the spot or not.
Is it one of the motions that's incorrect?
Yes. Because I don't believe it was the Plan B. And it says in the event that Plan A full override fails. I don't think we had the word full. I think it was just if the override fails, because at that point we hadn't even discussed what we were doing for an override.
So why don't we just take the minutes off and we can
review them.
Yeah, I apologize for missing that.
That's okay.
The first time.
That's okay. So now can I take a motion? And we're excluding December 3rd's minutes from the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So that was Randy and Will. All right. Randy.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
June.
Yeah.
Will.
Yes.
Lisa Bloom.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. We have 4 people for public comment. I will allow 3 minutes, or that is our policy that we allow 3 minutes per speaker. First, we have Patrick McPhee. If he could raise his hand. And Robin will promote him.
Give me 1 second.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just state your name and address.
Patrick McPhee, Ashby, Mass. Basically, I am a little concerned that people are reacting too quickly to the school closing of Ashby, and I think it's a quick reaction. If you really look back when the public safety building was done, Brad had approached the select board offering to make Ashby with a complete renovation, a primary school within the district. That was never done. What I would like to see is something similar to that put on the table. I don't have a problem paying another $500, $600 a year for the kids. And if the school is willing to allow that to keep Ashby, then I think we should look at it. Unfortunately, the town select board reacted again too quick, like they did last time when they wanted the public safety. They said, we'll get to the school committee request of what needs to be done, and they never did. So they reacted and they took all the money out from the funds. And what they did, which is really sad, is they gave it to the highway department and the police department, public safety. Both of them combined was $700,000. That would have been a lot of work for the school if they had done it. Just putting it into the school. But instead they reacted and then they took more money out of what they were going to do. And that's what's sad about this whole problem. The originally, when the public safety was gonna go in, the argument that we were given by the supporters was they were in Ashby more than they were out, those younger kids. Now they're gonna be out more than they're in because we have no school, which is wrong. We should have addressed the kids first, not worried about people having a big building for, at the time, it was only 4 people, which is sad, $9 million building. And that, what I'm wondering is if the motion can come up, Brad, if you're willing to consent to half of the school being redone and keeping it, I think we should look at it. And that would be, because they're already looking at doing the Grange Hall, and they're putting out bids for over $1 million, $2 million for that. Why not do this for the school, for the kids? That's my answer. Sorry, I took more than my time.
No, you were okay, Pat. Thank you, Pat. The next speaker is Shelley Jones. Shelley, just state your name and address, please.
Yep, Shelley Jones, Ashby, Mass. Good evening. I think it would be beneficial for the school committee and superintendent to understand the long bus rides you are suggesting by moving Ashby and Townsend middle school students to Pepperell. I hope that you request D-Bus to set up a trial bus route from the furthest away home to Natisset Middle School so that you can all experience firsthand what you are asking of our students. The decision to bus students further away from their homes and communities should not be taken lightly, and all efforts to understand the impact on students' social and emotional well-being should be considered. This decision is more than just longer bus times. It's less time at home and participating in after-school activities. It's further drives for parents to pick up and drop off kids for appointments. The winter weather difference between Ashby and Pepperell is significant. These are just to name a few of the challenges parents and caregivers will face with this decision. All of these issues need to be considered and addressed before a final decision to move middle school students to Pepperell is made. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. The next speaker is Melissa Boylan. Melissa, just state your name and address, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Melissa Boylan, 1392 West State Road in Ashby. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just have 2 brief things. I wouldn't even go 3 minutes. The first is in conversations with other families in the district I've been having, I'm hearing a lot of them say, even if the override is voted for, there's no guarantee that schools will remain open. Now, I'm not sure who they are. However, since you guys are the decision makers, I think it would be great if you could put out some clarifying information either way, because the uncertainty of those statements will impact voting. And then the second thing I just wanted to check in on is, I know a lot of the public asked for it at the budget hearing, and then I, along with others, had sent emails. It was great that you were able to provide us with the potential cost savings of Plan B building closures, but I think we're all still looking for potential costs, assuming that there's one-time costs to get buildings ready to handle the reconfiguration. I mean, and again, no one should assume, but there might be changes needed to a middle school to handle the younger learners, and then any potential reoccurring costs. I know decisions hadn't been made about school start times, but would the tiers of the busing system change? Do we need to have additional bus rides? I know Shelley just spoke about like the longer bus rides, but due to ridership and time on the bus, will additional buses be made? I am assuming, again, we know what that happens, that you had that information when you voted for the school closures. So it would be great if that could be made public, since that would just have an impact. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Melissa. Next speaker is Carrie Battersby. Carrie, just state your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening, guys. I'm Carrie Battersby. I live at 391 Frost Road in Ashby. Actually, some of my concerns were already addressed by previous parents. I do just have a quick thing about, I know you guys did a press conference, and I know that Brad has been reaching out to the state, and with an override looming, which I believe you guys said during the financial budget meeting that it would possibly be in April, are we going to have any information as to what the state has said, or will there be any decisions before we have to vote on the override? I think that would be kind of important too for voting, for the voter base too, just to see where we're at. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carrie. And there were no other public comments, correct? Robin, that came in
No.
last minute. I didn't
No.
see any. All right. Moving on to the reports. Our student representative report. We're not having one tonight. Meredith could not make it. For a chairperson's report, I do have one request that everyone, please, there was a spreadsheet sent out of available times that people could make potential meetings for our school committee. Please fill that out, as time is becoming very important, and that everyone on the school committee can attend these important meetings that are going to be about the budget. And over to the superintendent's report.
Yes, so I will address mine later on in the meeting with goals and other topics on the agenda.
Okay. All right, we have as new business, we have out-of-state field trip request by Miss Smith or Mrs. Smith. Is she on? I believe she is.
Yeah, I just promoted her, so.
Okay,
sometimes it
we'll
just
give her a
takes a
few
minute.
minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, Lori, go ahead. It's
Hello,
your
how are
turn.
you? So we have our New York Service Learning program is looking to go back to New Orleans. And there's 36 students and 7 chaperones that are looking to go during April vacation. They've done this for many years, and it's kind of the same itinerary. They don't know exactly where they will be helping out yet, because that happens a couple months beforehand based on the people in New Orleans trying to figure out what their needs are. So their request is to be approved to be able to go out of state and to go on this trip again.
Any questions or comments from the committee? I know that this is a great experience for several of our kids, and I was actually talking to someone in the community, and they had said something about the New Orleans Service Learning and how their kids had gone on it. So it was very enlightening.
Chair,
Randy,
I move we vote the school committee approve the North Middlesex Regional High School students trip to New Orleans from April 18th to April 25th.
I'll second.
Randy.
Yes, okay.
So we have Will and Randy.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that I know many students that have gone on the New Orleans trip, and I have not heard one bad thing about the experience. I know parents that have chaperoned it, and it really enriches the children's lives. It's a wonderful trip if people have the opportunity and the means to do that.
Any other questions before we take a vote? All right. We will go with Will Hackler,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
June,
Yeah.
Randy,
Yes.
and myself. All right, and the next topic you have as well, Mrs. Smith, it's the program of studies for the high school.
So I'm here to present if you would like, or just go over the changes that we're going to the program studies, or answer any questions. It's kind of how you would like to do it. We do have some changes in the program studies, and I don't know if you want me to go over those, if you want me to go department by department, what would you like?
Well, it depends on how long we want to make this meeting. Let's see.
The highlights would be great.
Highlights, let's do
Highlights.
highlights.
So just a couple changes in the program studies this year that we're looking at enhancing what our students their offerings and what they can choose from, and also looking about what kids are looking for into college and what they're trying to aspire to in their careers. So there's some classes that have been taken out, but not because that we're not replacing it. We're looking at something else that's a little more relevant and a little more that students are looking for. So in the English department, we are making some changes also to make sure we have enough sections for kids for the electives. A lot of times we have all these offerings, but we only have one section, and the kids who want it can't always get into it because it doesn't fit into their schedule. So with some of our electives, we're now changing to every other year, and we're putting that in the program of studies, saying exactly what year it's going to be. So that way students can plan. So they'll have 2 chances to take the class, and that way we'll have more sections one year. So the kids who want it hopefully will be able to get it and get into their schedule. And you'll see that throughout the program of studies, that's a lot of the department chairs have done that this year, so we can make sure the kids get what they're looking for. One of the main things in the English department that's being added this year is what's called the Unified Into the Future course. So we're a big inclusion school, and we have a great athletic program with the unified course things we offer here. So we're now going to add some classes during the day called for Unified Into the Future. This is a class that's going to be joined both special ed students and regular ed students, and they're going to learn about the, just different things that are out there and how kind of like get some skills to be successful, and just prepare for life after graduation and beyond. And it's great to see them working together in this. It's going to be the same kind of best buddies model that we have for unified basketball, unified track, and our new unified strength and conditioning. So that class is going to be new this year. We're only going to offer one section of that because we want to make sure it's successful, and we're still getting that from the ground up. So that's one of our new offerings. And looking in also our performing arts section, when we have 2 new teachers to our building, not new to the profession, and they're looking at changing some of the offerings we have in the music and the performing arts area to get more students into the music program, and not exactly performing, but just into the courses and trying to learn a little bit more about music. So we've made some additions to, history of jazz music technology, which is and sound engineering, which a lot of our students are interested in. And we're bringing back stagecraft, and we're just going to revamp what we're going to do for our curriculum for that. When we look at the physical education department, we're also bringing a unified course there called Unified Learn, Practice, Play. Exact same thing as that. It's going to be based on the best buddies model in our other unified sports we have here. And it's all about meeting health and wellness curriculum and allowing students who don't always go into the regular phys ed classes to allow them to do that, but at a modified version with some of our other students that's going to help them along. We really think those 2 courses in English and PE is going to bridge the gap even more about unified sports and inclusion. And we have a lot of students that are very excited about looking forward to taking this when we started talking about it. In the science department, the same thing as we've done a lot of every other year type thing. We brought back astronomy. We have a lot of students that are interested in that. So that's going to be a half-year course. We've also introduced a new course called marine biology. Marine biology and animal behavior will go every other year. We have a lot of students that look to take marine biology after school or go to college for that. And we have a lot of students that take marine biology as a VHS course. So now we're bringing it into the school, and hoping we get a really great turnout for that. Let's see what else. Social studies, we just changed our course description about engaging our community. We had a lot of students that were interested that want to do stuff about our community. The teacher that's looking to teach it is actually going to use our TV media studio to try to do some videos and engage our community. So we're looking forward to see how that turns out. Special education department, we're changing the way we do our academic assistance class. Right now it's an inclusion class, and that's how some of our students on IEPs receive their services that they need. Other students take that as they just need some extra help. So instead of having it all together as one, we're kind of splitting it up a little to make sure the students that are in certain classes for academic assistance are the students on IEPs. So we can make sure that their IEPs are followed and they're getting the service they need. While we're still going to have a course called Academic Essentials, which will be inclusion services regarding how we do different things and how we help students. So that's just a little split that we're making this year. We're going to try it and see how that works and make sure that we're all good for the students and what they need. That's kind of the overall. Everything else is pretty much staying the same. In the math department, we are making the one change too. We're taking out Algebra 1 and geometry, as we're moving away from having different levels in that aspect and all just going to Algebra 1 geometry for all students, having college prep or accelerated, and going to Algebra 2 geometry at the college prep and the accelerated. So we started that this past year and it's working well. So now we're just taking it to the next grade level. Any questions? That was a lot. I apologize.
It was a good summary. You
I
have a
tried.
lot of things. There's a lot of offerings. Any questions? Any concerns? All right, does someone want to make the motion to accept the program of studies?
Chair, I move we vote to approve the 2025-2026 North Middlesex High School Program of Studies as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, June beat you, Bill.
Okay.
So it was Will and June. All right, but I will start with you for the vote. Bill,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Will Hackler,
Yes.
Randy Roush,
Yes.
June McNeil.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith, and congratulations on being announced to the principal at the high school.
Thank
We
you.
are very pleased with that, or I am pleased with that. I can't answer for the committee, but
Thank you.
all right. Moving on, we are going to the 2025-2026 school district calendar. Brad, did you want to present this?
Sure. Sorry, just going between screens. I opened up the calendar and didn't mute myself, or didn't unmute myself. Sorry about that. So just going back to this is something that we started on at this point, probably about 4 weeks ago. And obviously looking to begin the school year in August as we have in years past, graduate the first Friday in June whenever possible. And just like this past year, just like this current year, we are minimizing the number of professional development, whether it be late start or early release days, so that we're able to maximize our time with students. This has been looked at by the Teachers Association, and again, it's very similar to years past. You will see a number of release days on there, but 4 of them are for parent-teacher conferences, which has been consistent in years past. And then also a handful of days for teacher professional development on top of that. But overall, if you were to compare North Middlesex to other districts, our early release time, whether it be half days or late starts, are really limited compared to other districts. But again, we like it because it does maximize students' time in the class, and also, you know, it maintains consistency from one month to the next, because it can get a little choppy if you have too much release time. So certainly open to questions on the calendar.
Anyone? I know that we had the 2.5 hour start this week. I can tell you that I had to ask several times on what time school actually started, because that half hour throws me. But we're good.
And honestly, just if people aren't aware, the reason we do the late start in the winter as opposed to the early release is that if you have an early release and we had to do a 2-hour delay because of weather, you'd have to cancel the entire day. Whereas doing a 2.5 hour late start, allows us to call a delay if weather calls for it and still get a half day of schooling regardless.
Anyone else have any comments? And I know around December, the vacation time, the dates where we're not coming back on the 2nd, we're going to extend it.
Right, where it's just coming back for one day. This year, you know, there were a handful of districts this year that came back, that did not come back for Thursday, Friday. A majority of the school districts in the state did come back Thursday, Friday, where New Year's was on a Wednesday. But next year, when New Year's is on a Thursday, coming back on a Friday doesn't seem to make a whole heck of a lot of sense where it's just one day. So we're recommending that we're allowing families just to get a little bit of extra time in together and then restarting on January 5th, the Monday.
If there aren't any more questions, I will take a motion to approve the 2025-2026 school calendar.
Chair, I move that we approve the 2025-2026 school district calendar as presented.
Second.
That was Will and Randy seconded. All right, we will. June, I will start with you.
Yeah.
Bill Berg,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Will Hackler,
Yes.
Randy Roush,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, now we are moving on to Dr. Reese from the Curriculum Office.
Good evening, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So as you may be aware, back in November, there was a ballot question regarding the MCAS testing and whether we would continue to use it as a competency determination as part of graduation requirements. The ballot question, as a result of that, they took out, and I've got the language in here, which I'm not going to read completely, but essentially the competency determination, in order for students to receive a diploma, they have to meet both our local graduation requirements. So, and I'll show that on a subsequent slide, but we have a series of requirements as well as competency determination, which is really just a determination that students have met what we would consider grade 10 level standards in English language arts, math, and science and technology. And the way the state had been determining competency was through the MCAS. That no longer is an option. And so the language of measured by an assessment instrument has been replaced by satisfactorily completing coursework that each district determines rises to that level of certifying that students meet those grade level standards in grade 10. So there's been a lot of discussion, both from the superintendent's group, I'm sure, from the school committee association, as well as just between districts on how each district is going to handle this. And what the state has asked us to do is come up with a short-term solution for those students that are currently trying to graduate and how they're going to meet competency, a mid-level determination for those students in class of 2026, and then a long-term solution for the students moving on as well as prior school years. So this evening, would like to share what we would like to propose as our short-term solution and seek school committee approval for us to move forward with that, where there is some immediacy need to have for students that are trying to make competency for this year. And then ask that the school committee refer the proposals, which we're still trying to flesh out for 2026 and beyond, back to policy, because there are some policy implications, and also to the administration, just to have some further discussion as we continue to get feedback and support from the state. So in terms of action steps, there's the Board of Education. They need to make adjustments to their regulations that currently refer to the MCAS as the competency determination. Within the regulation language, there is a section that says they might add on additional requirements. So we're waiting to see if the Board of Education does add any additional requirements, which we would obviously need to comply with. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, they're no longer issuing competency determination. And we're waiting to see if they provide some further guidance for districts on how to best identify competency. And then for our level, at the district level, we need to develop a policy. So that goes to the school committee on local competency determination requirements. And we're also looking for further guidance as well on just making sure that we're doing it and doing it with intention. This slide just shares, and this is accessible on the district website as well as in the high school or in the handbook. You can see the graduation requirements. So again, at the local level, students had to meet this graduation requirement. They also had to meet the competency determination at the state level in order to receive a diploma. So what we're looking at for the students, we have a handful of students who, first, the pathway one is that they've taken and passed the MCAS. So most of our students for the classes of 24, 25 have met the MCAS or the competency determination requirement through passing the MCAS. So they're all set. We do have a handful of students that did not pass it, and we're planning to take the retest options, which no longer are available for students to use towards MCAS competency determination. So what we're looking at for this year for those students is that they've completed 2 years of English, 2 years of math, and a lab science, completed and successfully passed. So that's what we'd be seeking tonight for school committee approval to move forward for this school year. And then in terms of that mid option, this is a class of 2026. Again, this is just our preliminary thinking. We still want to work it through with the school committee, policy subcommittee, and also at the administration level. But those students, some of them will have already passed, taken the MCAS and passed because they took it in their sophomore year and their freshman year. Pathway 2 for students that didn't pass the MCAS testing, that they've completed a couple English courses, a couple math courses, and a lab science. And then looking at a pathway 3, which is something that some districts are exploring at this point, that involves a competency determination assessment panel. So these might be students that took 2 years of English or 2 years of math, but it might have been a lower level course, as well as a lower level lab science, and doing some type of portfolio submission so that we'll be able to determine and assess that they've met grade level standards for at that minimum threshold of grade 10. Again, it still needs to be fleshed out, but this is just what we're initially thinking and what we're seeing from many of the other districts that are also exploring this. Other districts are also exploring what we do for students from classes of 2003 to 2023 who may not have received their diploma because they didn't meet the competency determination of the MCAS. And perhaps we're looking at some type of potential of doing a transcript review and working through the competency determination assessment panel as well. And then moving into the class of 2027 and beyond, these are students that have not taken the MCAS. Well, we have, they may have taken the science MCAS in grade 9, so we'll have to flesh that out. But this is similar to the pathway 2 and 3 that you saw for class of 2026, that they had the 2 years of English and math and the 1 year of science at a certain level, college prep or accelerated, or that they've have those years of instruction and submit a portfolio and work through the competency determination panel. So really what we're looking for tonight is approval from the school committee for the students, for the short-term plan for the students in classes of 24 and 25. Again, it's a very small group of students that this would be applicable for because a majority of them have met competency through the MCAS already. And then referring, the second thing that I'm looking for is just referring this back to the policy subcommittee for further review and discussion, as well as waiting kind of input that we're going to hopefully get from the state on this. And that is the competency.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. Any questions? Randy?
Not really a question. I just wanted to say thank you very much for being so thoughtful with the students with this major change that got thrown at us. I think it's great that we're working with the students to make sure that they are meeting competency and have a way to graduate. So thank you for that, and look forward to working this out on the policy subcommittee.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? I do have a question, Dr. Reese. Would they ever replace it with some kind of other test?
So my assumption is they would have to go back on a ballot question because they've changed the statute to take out using an assessment. So we couldn't even, as a district, say that we want to use an assessment tool to make that determination, because that would be contrary to what was voted on in November.
Okay. Makes sense. Any other questions? Does someone want to make a motion
Chair,
on the short term?
I motion that the committee accept the short-term competency determination proposal as permitted, as presented, and then refer the other part back to the subcommittee, to the policy committee for review.
I second.
Lisa seconds. All right, so that was Bill and Lisa Bloom. All right, Randy Roush,
Yes.
June McNeil. Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Bill Berg,
Yes.
and Will Hackler.
Yes.
All right. On to the next one. I know that we're taking off the farming one.
Yes, we're gonna, if we can hold on that until next
Okay.
meeting.
All right.
And then the other item that I had this evening was just a quick highlight of the strategic plan work we're doing. We have been starting a strategic plan working group to review the plan that was approved by the school committee at the beginning of the school year, and to just start to really reevaluate and assess what do those initiatives and actions actually mean, making sure that we all have a common understanding and that it's clear what we're looking to do, what adjustments we might need to make just based on current budgetary constraints, and how to move forward in terms of just making sure that everyone has a voice and has been involved in the process. We, in December, had an introductory meeting where we I highlighted, did an overview of what the strategic plan looked like. On January 8th, we had a meeting where it really was a working group where we focused on the climate, culture, and community strategic initiative and got some feedback from the people that were there. We also put out a survey that went out to everyone. It also went to we asked the libraries as well as the senior centers if they would share that information with their constituents. And we've given hard copies as well that we're going to be making sure. We're just hoping to see that we can get access and opportunity for feedback from everyone. Our next meeting will be on January 22nd at 6 p.m. Those meetings do happen at the high school, and they really need to happen in person because of the nature of how we're structuring the meetings in order to get everyone's feedback and input. But I would encourage and welcome anyone to participate and attend. It was a lot of fun on the 8th. I think the people that attended enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to increased participation at the next one.
I do have a question. How many people attended the first meeting and your second meeting?
So the first meeting, it was virtual, and so I don't know the exact number. I was presenting, I wasn't controlling that. But the meeting, the January 8th working group meeting, we had 16 people attend, and there were representatives from all three member communities, which was nice to see. and we had a student there that attended. So I'm hoping that it'll continue to grow. But even if I recognize that some people may not be able to attend those meetings, so that's why we're also putting out the survey so that if you're not able to attend, you still have an opportunity to give some feedback.
It's a large task, Karen.
It is, but it's important, and I think it's helpful for hopefully helpful for the community members that attend to be able to see kind of the work that went into the process, as well as still having a voice as we move forward.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Just to confirm, that was so January 22nd is the next meeting?
Yes, and there
Okay.
will be a tomorrow, we're sending out a reminder for that, as well as the registration link. And we just ask
Okay.
that people register because that helps us know kind of the groups that we're going to plan and coordinate.
Great.
And
Thank you.
and we also have to be careful as a committee so that we don't get a quorum there, or so do register or let me know if you're going to be attending.
I'll
right,
keep you
thank
posted
you.
on that. Good point.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? There is nothing we had to vote on for this, right? Just an update. Now we will go back. Thank you, Dr. Reese. Now we are going to public records requests. Robin is going to give an update on this area.
So I just wanted to let the committee know that we're seeing a significant increase year over year for public records requests. In 2024, we received 54 requests compared to 32 in 2023 and 34 in 2022. The increase represents a 70% increase over 2023 and a 68% increase over 2022. And while these requests initially are submitted to the records access officer, many require the efforts of multiple staff members to gather the necessary information. And the process involves identifying the requested records, reviewing them for sensitive information, and then making them available to the requester. It often requires coordination between different departments and can be very time consuming. Many times we need to refer to our legal counsel. So the requests place a strain on our district resources, diverting attention from regular responsibilities, incurring additional costs. The rise in these public records requests reflect the growing demand for transparency, but it also emphasizes the need for adequate resources to manage these efforts without affecting the district's primary functions. And I also wanted to share that as of January 1st, we've received 4 public records requests. And this early increase request further underscores the ongoing demand for transparency and the continued need for efficient management of the inquiries.
All right, thank you, Robin. Any questions? Comments? All right, we will move on to the next one. Ms. Ivy, you have this one as well. Communications and public relations.
Yeah, so I wanted to share with the committee some of the highlights and the things that we've been working on over the past year. I won't go through the whole report. I shared it with you in your packet. But I think when we put it down in paper, we're talking about it, but when we put it down, it really showcases the efforts that's going into sharing the success stories of our students and our staff with our community and helping the community better understand what it is that our students are doing and the difference that it's making. So, you know, you're going for it, you'll be able to see the difference in the social media growth, you know, our media placements, and some of the different things, the annual district report that we put out, the new district website that was launched last year, and the efforts that went into that. The budget portal website, which has received over 25,000 visits since it launched. all the budget development presentations that that were held last year, helping to educate the community on the budget process and understanding the funding formula, et cetera. And the press conference that we held, and then all the press releases that were written and published last year. So I thought it would be nice for you all to see it in writing and see what's happening from that perspective.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. And it's shown some positive things for us too, which is great for our district and showcases our district and our students and our staff. So thank you for the work on this and the other people that help to participate in getting the public relations done. Any questions on this piece? All right. We will keep moving on. We are on to the superintendent's goals for 2024-25.
Sure. So thank you. In the past, sometimes I've gone over the goals, other times I have not. Does it make sense that I just go over the goals, just the, I guess, the main goal, and I can do the key actions too. I mean, I'll do whatever the committee would like, but I can certainly just present the 3 goals as is and leave the action steps out to questions. If there are questions, I'll do whatever the committee would like here.
The highlights, please. I already read it, so.
Okay, sure. So again, state of Massachusetts requires superintendents to set forth 2 to 4 SMART goals annually. I do have 3 to present to the committee. The first one is a district improvement goal, which is coaching and or working with the new high school principal, where I'm working directly from the high school this year as an additional administrator to help coach Ms. Smith. And this is in part due to some of the budgetary considerations that we looked at coming into this year as well. But overall, my goal is to successfully mentor Ms. Smith during the next several months. We've been working well together as a team since the summer, and since she's been named the principal, that work continues. We continue to work together on a daily basis, and we were able to collaborate pretty much throughout the day through a wide variety of things. Again, whether it be through working on discipline issues, educator evaluation, special education, and the budget even. It's been a great experience. So that is the first goal. The second goal is also a district improvement goal, and that is working again with the high school team, both on site at the high school, but also the central office team on the NEASC accreditation process that the high school will be going through this coming year. They will be coming to visit the high school in March and working on establishing 3 to 5 big priorities as we, again, prepare for that site visit, but also prepare for the next step in that accreditation process. And the last goal is a student learning goal. And again, focused on the high school where I am there, working with students and supporting them in their engagement on leadership and positive modeling opportunities through a variety of activities I'll be engaging with and have been engaging with the students in since the beginning of the school year. I'll take questions if you have any questions on the key actions themselves, but again, it's 2 to 4 goals. There are 3 here to present to the committee, and certainly open to feedback.
Brad, could you explain, or Mr. Morgan, could you explain NEASC, what it is for the public a little bit?
Yes,
So
the NEASC accreditation process, it's a New England agency that accredits, it really accredits all types of schools throughout New England, private schools, colleges, public high schools. So part of that process is that they will be coming to do a visit in looking at things such as our strategic plan, looking at the school improvement plan, looking at curriculum, what we're offering the students, making sure that we're doing what we need to do as a public high school in Massachusetts to be a successful institution. And they are who accredits North Middlesex Regional High School. As a high school, I know oftentimes people have talked about accreditation. Is the high school accredited? The high school is accredited, but it is something that comes up for review on a fairly regular basis. And it's our turn for a review, and we are in that process now. And it is something truly that the entire high school community is involved in. Students have been surveyed, parents have been surveyed, staff have been surveyed. There are multiple groups at the high school who are working on going through the self-reflection and identifying areas of strength, areas of weakness, and then all of that will be presented when the NEASC team, it's a 6-person team from people all over New England that will be visiting the school and determining where we stand with regard to not just being accredited, but where we stand with regard to other public high schools in the Commonwealth.
All right, thank you for the explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions from the committee on Superintendent Morgan's goals? June.
Just a quick comment. I do understand and support all of these goals, but I do notice that they're all very high school based, which makes a lot of sense because Superintendent Morgan is in the high school this year. So I do think that makes sense for this year. But perhaps next year we can go back to more overall district based goals. But I do understand this, and this all does make sense. So.
Absolutely, that is certainly the plan.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, quick question, Mr. Morgan. The NAESC accreditation, is that similar to an audit, or is it just a survey to accredit?
It actually, in many ways, it is similar to an audit. I mean, they're essentially coming in, and I guess in some ways they're assessing and or grading where we stand in a variety of areas. And they're looking at everything from programs, staffing. They're looking at curriculum offerings. And again, the school improvement plan, how it relates to the district improvement plan. They're looking at a variety of aspects. So in many ways, it is like an audit. But it is not just for public high schools. It's private high schools. Colleges go through this with NEASC as well. It's really a New England-based organization.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more comments, questions? If not, I can take a motion to approve.
I move to approve the superintendent's goals for 2020 or FY25.
I'll second.
That is Randy and Bill. Will.
Yes.
June McNeil.
Yeah.
Is Lisa Bloom. Sorry, everyone keeps me. Randy Roush.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Your goals are approved. Thank you for working on these. All right, now we're on to. Are we on to the North Middlesex ban?
Yes.
All right, and Will has said that he will read this. So, but I am going to let Nancy. Nancy is going to explain what this is.
Sure. It's really a quick update. This is a renewal ban for the high school, the remaining high school borrowing and the accelerated repair borrowing. We've been rolling this ban for quite a few years, and this will, I think, probably be our 4th or 5th, maybe longer than that year of rolling the ban. It goes out to bid, and we received 5 bids for the renewal. The renewal is going to expire. We're going to actually have this end in October, with the hopes that the high school project, the MSBA closeout is completed by October. That's the hope. And then we would roll this into a more permanent borrowing, not just a year-to-year ban. We got a really good interest rate. We got just under 3% with our renewal. So I think that's essentially it. I don't know if anyone had any questions before Will reads the language.
Okay.
Go ahead, Will.
Chair, I move the school committee vote. We hereby determine in accordance with GL Chapter 70B that the cost of the new district high school project authorized by a vote of the committee passed February 10th, 2014. 2, Varnum Brook School Feasibility Study Project authorized by the vote of the committee passed September 12th, 2016. 3, Hawthorne Brook School Feasibility Study Project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on September 12th, 2016. 4, Varnum Brook Elementary School Renovations Project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on September 12th, 2016. 5, Hawthorne Brook School Renovations Project authorized by a vote of the district passed on April 3rd, 2017. And 6, Squanicook Early Childhood Center Renovations Project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on April 3rd, 2017. Each being financed with proceeds of a portion of the notes defined below, together with all other bonds and notes of the district previously issued to pay the cost of these projects, does not exceed the portion of the total cost of the projects that are not being paid by the school facilities grants, and we hereby approve the issuance of notes and bonds to finance these projects under GL Chapter 70B. Further voted to approve the sale of $17,910,984, 4% general obligation bond anticipation notes, the notes of the districts dated January 30th, 2025, and payable October 30th, 2025, to Truist Securities, Inc. at par and accrued interest, if any, plus a premium of $146,332.74. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the notes, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated December 30th, 2024, and a final official statement dated January 8th, 2025, each in such form as may be approved by the district treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the district treasurer and the chair of the committee be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a significant events disclosure undertaking in compliance with the SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by the bond council of the district, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the notes for the benefit of the holders of the notes from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the district treasurer to establish past issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures as such forms as the district treasurer and bond council deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax exempt status of the notes and to comply with the relevant securities laws. And in there. Further voted that any certificates or documents related to the notes, collectively the documents may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original, and all of which shall constitute one and the same document, and delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file or by other electronic transmission shall be as effective as delivery of a manually executed counterpart signature to such document. And electronic signatures of any documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purposes of the documents in all matters relating thereto, having the same legal effect as original signatures. Further voted that each member of the committee, the district secretary, and the district treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them, or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes.
Well done.
I
Who was
second.
Okay, Lisa Bloom is second. All right. Randy,
Yes.
June,
Yeah.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
and myself, yes. The ban is And I was in yesterday and signed the papers, and I think
Thank
the
you very much.
treasurer was coming in today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're all set.
All set? Okay. I am gonna skip back. It wasn't highlighted. The school committee goals. Randy and I had a discussion about the school committee goals and that we are going to move this to a future meeting. Was that correct, Randy? That we're moving it to a future meeting?
Yeah, I actually think we're kind of past the point that the school committee is really gonna be able to get some good goals going, and we don't have a great process. We've been trying to do this for a couple of years to get a good process and get good goals that relate back to the strategic plan. With everything going on with the budget right now, I think getting a process in place and setting them in near our organizational meeting for the following year probably is going to be much more worthwhile than trying to quickly come to some goals right now.
Is everybody on the committee okay with that? Any concerns? I see everyone shaking their head. They are all good with not setting goals this year. All right. Thank you. All right, moving on. We are on to old business. There's no actions under old business. We are moving to subcommittee reports. There's no report from the Ashby Elementary Building Committee. No report from the Accelerated Repairs Building Committee. We are on to finance. I am handing that to Will.
Thank you. Did we want to cover anything on 2025? I didn't think I had anything. Nancy, Brad?
Not on 2025, other than it's just very tight at this point. The administrative team met today. Special education numbers are continuing to climb, especially with regard to out-of-district placement, and we've had to add staff over the course of the year as well to remain in compliance. So again, that's something that we're going to have to carefully monitor. Also, we'll likely be talking to the Finance Committee about a potential budget freeze at some point early on in the spring. But even that, a lot of that is not within our control because of contractual obligations and things of that nature. So it really would not freeze up a lot of money, but it would freeze up some to potentially help with some of our increases again in that area of special education, but it certainly is not going to solve the problem.
Good. On the 2026, so we have the budget hearing. The joint committee is coming up February 6th, 2025. For discussion there on that. I'll go down a couple, just quickly run through a couple of the pieces here. So Finance Committee got together last week. We were looking at some items for one-time use of funds. The first thing we dug into was the solar project. So the high school, we have the solar that's on the high school there. We have the option to buy those out. Just a quick commentary there is that we looked at that. There's still some pieces we still need to learn on it, but generally the cost of buying it out, the costs at this point would be $542,000. Right now we're spending $30,000 a year, so our payback is in that 18-year range with some unknown factors. So at this point, the Finance Committee is not recommending using any one-time funds for the solar project. The turf field lease, if we want to use some one-time funds, there is some savings there. The buyout would probably be in the $350,000 range. I say probably just because it's based on timing. Each quarter, we have, we could potentially buy that out. 350 is the next one that's coming up that's possible in that direction. Savings, because we are spending $93,000 a year, would save us about $25,000 in interest costs if we were to take some one-time funds and buy out the turf field. The other issue that came up, which we're recommending really for the full school committee here on a vote side of it, is that the Pepperell Rec Department is talking about making some changes to the tennis courts located behind Varnum Brook. And Patrick McPhillips volunteered to be the liaison with the Pepperell Rec to work on that, whether that's feasible, obviously, take that down, do something else with that area. So our recommendation to the full committee here on this would just be that we appoint Patrick as liaison to the Pepperell Rec to work on that situation and come back to us with some recommendations.
Any questions?
I have one quick question. The $25,000 interest on the turf field, is that for the term of the lease, or is that an annual interest pay?
It'd be
Plus.
for the remaining term. So
Okay.
we pay roughly $93,000 a year.
Mhm.
The buyout right now would be roughly $350,000, which would end up with a $25,000 savings.
Yeah.
Randy?
Yeah, I just want to add, along with the $25,000 in savings, right now, $93,000 is being used from some revolving funds, and that frees those revolving funds to actually be used back in the budget. So essentially, it's $93,000 for next year that we can reduce the budget or add more revenue to the budget for next year. So that's another added benefit to the 25,000 overall.
Any more questions? Anyone want to make a motion? We'll start with the Patrick Phillips as a liaison to the Pepperell Rec.
Yeah, I move to appoint Patrick Phillips as the liaison.
Second.
Alright, do I have a second? So that is Bill Berg and William Hackler. Will,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jill McNeil,
Yeah.
Randy Roush,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right. So Patrick is approved. On the turf field lease,
And I mean, I'm not looking at a motion or a vote on this one yet. I'm just saying if we get to the point on the budget of using one-time funds, that the finance committee would recommend that that would be a good use of one-time funds. So I guess that gets us back to the 26 budget discussion. Mr. Morgan?
Sure. So again, really not much has changed. I believe I notified the committee at the last meeting that I've been put on a small task force with Mars and Project 211 to work on trying to make some inroads with the state. I do actually have a phone call scheduled tomorrow with Michelle Licio, who's the ed policy analyst for the Speaker Mariano, who I have been trying to get in touch with. They did get back to me yesterday and asked me for my availability on Friday, which I told them I would make myself available at any point over the course of the day. I still have not heard back from her since that email. I responded immediately to the email. So I am hoping to get the opportunity to get the speaker's ear at some point over the next couple of weeks, based on my conversations with Representative Scarsdale and Senator Cronin. I am hearing that the Senate would be in favor of looking at regional funding. It's really the House, which is the obstacle at this point in time, and that the person that really controls the House would be the Speaker. So I think it would be beneficial to hopefully get a conversation with him, explain the situation that we're in, because although I know that they realize that we're struggling, I don't think they fully realize why we're struggling. And again, this is not a North Middlesex problem. In speaking with Rep. Scarsdale today, our problem mirror GD's problems. So it is something, you know, Pentucket, Triton, other regional school districts with similar makeups to NM are struggling across the state. And what we really need to do is get their ear on the funding formula and looking at some of these partially funded mandates and how we can be supported more. Even the Project 211 piece. There's a lot of schools in that Project 211 that are doing really, really well financially. Again, although they're held harmless, they're in a very different financial situation than a lot of the regional school districts are in the state. So again, that's been a goal of mine. I've been trying to get the Speaker's ear for a couple of months now, and I'm hoping that I make some positive inroads on that tomorrow.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy, but our next big piece with this is the governor's numbers come out by the end of the month.
Yes, I think they're actually, I suspect by the 23rd or 24th, we should have most likely the Chapter 70 workbook, which has a lot of the information we need in order to go forward with our calculations for towns and the assessments.
And will you you have scheduled a finance meeting January 28th, am I correct?
Thanks for, I don't remember what that is, but yes. Sure.
I think that's when it is. Robin stepped away for a minute, but I think we got that put on
No,
the
I'm
calendar.
here. Yes, it is. It's scheduled for the 28th.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Let's see it from my section.
All right. Anything else? All right. We are moving on to policy. Randy.
With the FY26 budget, just wanted to go back to that. Sorry, I was a little slow on raising my hand. Were we gonna go, I don't know if it's in a different section, but I thought we were gonna go over some other possible configurations or options for that budget and changes.
Not at this point. I mean, I think, you know, all of our so much of our stuff is estimates. The next step we were waiting for is some of these governor's numbers, and we can look at it at that point.
With the finance meeting, I think, Randy, would be a better discussion of some of that and figure out, it's not listed on our agenda tonight for more of that. I do know that we're going for, and that's where I think the finance committee needs to come up with the override amount that we're going to be asking and that budget piece of it. I'm probably not wording it correctly.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I understand that. But I guess I misunderstood the email that came out that we were gonna be talking about some other options and that time was kind of the essence that we start trying to come up with. I mean, if we're gonna change anything, we need to change it as soon as possible. And I guess you know, you're talking almost 2 weeks now before the finance goes, and I'm not sure when the next school committee meeting is after that we all have to vote on that. So all of a sudden, everything is slowing down, and I'm not sure why.
And if it's all right, I mean, I have a little update on the liaison portion of this. I can, that is somewhat relevant here. If you want me to share on that side.
Go ahead.
So, I been invited and I'm, attending the Townsend, Selectmen meeting next Tuesday, to talk about some more of this stuff. And part of that discussion is certainly timing of, you know, as far as the getting a, vote in this spring for the override. So that's part of the discussion. I think, you know, from the three towns, what we're hearing, you know, is they'd like to do it at the same day. Right now, I think, you know, sort of penciling in something in March 10th timeframe, to get all those meetings scheduled at the same time. Obviously, coming up, we have the budget hearing February 6th, where we're going to come down with some firmer numbers to just, you know, to hand out to those town representatives at that point. So between Tuesday and my spot of, you know, talking with towns and selectmen, we have our finance committee the following week, and then our budget hearing the week after that.
Okay, then I'm gonna ask Brad. I guess I'm confused that, that some other options are not being brought up tonight, that I thought were gonna be brought up.
Okay, so as far as the other options, that is still something that we are working on and that we're continuing to work on. But at this point, I think there was an issue because of the fact that we did not have the full committee that voted the last time to discuss it.
I mean,
I'm sorry, one more time, that we didn't have the full committee to vote what?
or to discuss these options. There's
Tonight, that we don't have. a
yeah,
full
tonight.
committee.
So there's not the full committee, as we had several members not in attendance.
Okay. Is there any way that we can maybe discuss them and then not vote on anything tonight, but it gives if we bring it up tonight, then we can have possible feedback from the communities.
Oh, June.
We do have a quorum of members right now, so I don't think having every member necessarily comes into play, since Tom has only been at one meeting in the past year, or the past year of this committee, since May. So to try to hold the weight for a member doesn't seem right.
I'd say at the very least, we've never held up talking about things because members can't make a meeting.
I think talking about it, but voting, I think we want to be careful because of voting on any option without representation can cause issues. Am I in agreement with people with that? I mean,
I don't think we've
like-
ever worried about it in the past, but I understand that this is a larger decision than we've
This
made
is-
in the past.
yeah,
But
yeah.
again, you're avoiding talking about and bringing this up for anybody to understand it, and for us, the ones that could make the meeting tonight, be able to at least start the discussions.
June?
Just one more comment. I think this is part of the transparency piece that has been discussed, where, you know, there are kind of emails going back and forth and conversations happening, but not happening in a public meeting. So I think if you want to reduce records requests, this is one of the ways to do it, by having an open discussion with everybody in a public meeting.
Brad, do you want to put forward the option?
Sure. So an option that was being considered, and just again, really just in full transparency, this is something that we've been looking at. It's not something that we ever stopped looking at. We're always looking at options because we never truly know what's going to happen with the budget until the governor's numbers come out and we get a little bit more clarity, and then, you know, looking at the whole override piece. But in looking at it, one of the options that a group of us worked on at central office would be an option that would maintain an operational Ashby Elementary School. And the group, and again, it was a small group, but we did feel that the best way to go about it would be looking at really one of two options. First option would be similar to what we currently have, except Ashby would be K-5. And with that, you know, there's certainly issues with that because it doesn't address class size equity. And it does create that issue where because you only have 1 or 2 sections of a grade level in a school and not much space, if you go to 2 sections across the board, K-5, and there's not much space after that, and then you have the 2 sections, say in grade 3, eclipse 29 and go to 30, there's really no place to put that 3rd section because it's 1 or 2 sections K-5. And the same thing would potentially hold true if you kept it K-4. There's just not a lot of flexibility with 1 to 2 sections, where when you're looking at Spalding and Hawthorne Brook, you've got 4, in some cases 6 sections. And there's a lot of flexibility if you have students moving in to break into another section if need be, just because of the number of sections. So it would be Ashby, K-5, all of Ashby. Squannacook would be pre-K district-wide, K-3 Townsend. Hawthorne Brook would be 4 to 5 Townsend, 6 to 8 Ashby Townsend. Really, again, moving grade 5 to Ashby Elementary, as opposed to just having it be K-4, if that makes sense. Potential savings, or I should say the potential or projected enrollment for Ashby would be 186. Right now it's around 140. And the potential savings in staff would be about 4 FTEs because you'd be merging some grade levels. So there would be a built-in savings in staff, which will lead to some reductions automatically through attrition. The other option would be really a pretty significant change. And this is where it kind of gets at the number of sections by making it somewhat similar to the other schools. And this one would have Ashby Elementary be K-1, all of Ashby, all of Townsend. So it's not West Townsend, it's not a section of Townsend, it's Ashby Elementary would essentially become an early childhood K-1, all of Ashby, all of Townsend. And then Squannacook would maintain the pre-K district-wide and then would be 2 to 4 Ashby, Townsend, all of Ashby, all of Townsend. Hawthorne Brook would remain the same, grades 5 through 8, Ashby, Townsend. Again, this makes the enrollment numbers a little bit more balanced, where Ashby would go from 140 students to 204. Again, these are just projections. Potential savings in staff, rather than it being 4, would be upwards of 7, again, through attrition and merging grade levels and balancing class sizes. It has a couple of other benefits as well. And again, I realize this is somewhat of a radical change, but some of the benefits would be the way it would work is if you had grades 2 to 8 at Squannacook and Hawthorne Brook, that would essentially be a campus. So the K-1 in Ashby, of Ashby and Townsend, would be a tier, a busing tier. So that would be, you know, again, that first tier. The second tier would be a drop off at Squannacook for 2 to 4, and then a subsequent drop off at Hawthorne Brook. So you would have students in Ashby and Townsend grade 2 to 8 on the bus together. maintaining a singular tier because they're on the same campus. And not adding a tier, which would add money to the district's budget by adding a fourth tier. And then the third tier would be the high school. So that maintains a 3-tier system. Again, the rationale would be to still keep the pre-K at Squanicook and not move it to Ashby, because maintaining one of the critical pieces of the pre-K program is that when you're looking at, you have to have a +1 of typical students versus special education students in the pre-K program. So when you're looking at a class of 13 pre-K students, 6 of them are on IEPs and 7 of them are typical. Having the pre-K program be centrally located for typical students, where they're being driven in most cases by their parents, so they're being driven in all cases by their parents, makes it, gives us a better opportunity to remain a balanced program. There's also some built-in assistance with this, in that we would be merging the Ashby and Townsend students immediately at grade K. So they would be, meshed basically, and, know each other very well prior to getting to middle school, which may be helpful. This change does not impact the structure at Hawthorne Brook or the middle school for Ashby students. And to me, if this is an option that goes forward, I feel as though it would eliminate what has become the annual Ashby question. Because it's not 1 or 2 sections, 140 kids in the building. Now you're looking at 204 students in the building. The building would be full, and you would have multiple sections of kindergarten, again, 3 to 5, and 3 to 5 sections of first grade, which would allow for, again, that balancing between throughout the district, but also the ability to have some flexibility with that number of sections, if that makes sense. This would obviously, anything along these lines would require the school committee to take action on policy JCA, which is the student assignment to schools. And then we obviously have to look at, other aspects of the lease of Ashby Elementary School, but that would certainly be an option. I would say that in full transparency that the group that worked on this feel as though the option I just described would be the most beneficial to the district, because again, it fills the buildings, it balances class sizes across the district. And I think it makes, if you're looking to keep a viable elementary school in Ashby, this option fills it. It fills the school. It doesn't have vacant classrooms, other than the vacated wing.
Questions? Randy or Lisa, which one first? Or who will? Go ahead, Randy.
Okay. First, I'd like to say thank you to Superintendent Morgan and your team for continuing to look at the issues that face the district and the best educational opportunities for the students in face of this budget crisis that we're trying to navigate. So thank you very much for keeping the options open and finding new ways. One thing I wanted to bring up is I did a little bit of an analysis based on the school capacities that were given to us and the projected enrollments with the different options that we had. The option that we already voted on before that closed both Ashby Elementary and Spalding Memorial. When I was looking at percentage of the buildings that it would occupy, so basically how much free space we have. There are some concerning numbers. At Varnum Brook and Nissitissit, their enrollments would be projected at 684 and 702, which puts them right about 90% of capacity. And that is with really taking the special education programs that they have there and condensing them down to much smaller spaces than they're using right now. I understand they are using larger spaces than what would be normally afforded to them. So, because their special education has small classrooms due to regulations, and they're using a full classroom size. But it still does create other issues trying to consolidate those into, 2 in 1 room or however you do that. And having just 1 or 2 classrooms or 3 classrooms in each of those buildings is very, very concerning going forward for the future. You also have Hawthorne Brook would be close to 80% filled with that option of closing 2 schools. Looking at the 2 options that you gave us tonight, I too, along with your administration, like the K-1 at Ashby Elementary School. Some additional reasons why I like that is it's bringing the 2 communities together earlier. 2 communities are already joined with sports they do after school. There's a lot of the after school, TASA and tabs are 2 that I can think of right away. This really kind of helps the communities come together a little bit earlier and for the kids to get to know each other better and move through all the different schools. I think the savings that we have from busing, the grades 2 to 8, could possibly be some great savings in that. I know back in 2012, when we moved Ashby over to Squanicook for their roof and windows project, there was a savings in buses then when they were on the middle school tier. So I'm hoping when things work out here that we're going to see some bus savings as well, which is a nice savings that doesn't affect the education of the children. I think having, like you said, educationally, this is probably the better option. Whereas we have more sections for equity. And I really would like to see much more work done on this option and brought back to the school committee, hoping that it looks like a much better option than closing 2 schools. So that is what I have to, say. So keep up the good work, keep looking at that. Great. I would love to hear from the communities now that we have this out there, and have some time to get some feedback before the full committee is going to hopefully look at this and maybe vote on it. Time is of the essence, like we've been saying, so we need to make some decisions so we can move forward. And then we'll go into the finance subcommittee meetings and start looking at a possible level for an override and hopefully have that sometime soon for the communities as well. Thank you.
I was on mute, sorry. What I was saying is this, when the state numbers come out, that's when we have great numbers to go to our towns and get that override vote that everybody is anticipating. So a little patience with the state, or not with the state, but patience in us developing the fuller budget. All right, Lisa Bloom.
I'm sorry, Brad, I didn't, your voice cut out, so I didn't hear the option that you suggested. Was it 1?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
that's what I thought.
it's the second one. It's the second one. So just to repeat it, it would be Ashby Elementary K-1, all of Ashby, all of Townsend, Squanicook, pre-K for the entire district, grades 2 to 4, Ashby, Townsend, and then Hawthorne Brook would remain the same.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
June.
Thank you. First, thank you to the admin team for looking at this again and trying to find a solution that is equitable for all of our students. Both of these options would not negatively affect one subset of students, like the option that was previously voted on. So I do appreciate you going back to this. I do, just a quick question, then I have a couple more things to say. I know, Superintendent Morgan, you just said that you would recommend the K through 1 option over the K through 5 option. Would you recommend one of these options over the option that was previously voted on?
Would I recommend one of the options I just discussed over the other options?
Over the option that was voted on December 3rd.
So just to clarify, I would always recommend maintaining the current model that we have in place to a point. You know, again, I do think the equity and the balancing is important. So if the option I just described was something that the committee can get behind, I would absolutely feel as though that would be an option that would work very well for the students in North Middlesex. You know, in looking at the options, even the options that were shared previously, something that we don't know is what if a housing development comes in into any of the towns. It doesn't matter what town it comes into. If it comes into any of the towns, and I know that, you know, it's been brought up before, we would have capacity issues in our buildings. You know, if a certain number of students came to North Middlesex through that housing development. So closing 2 buildings is absolutely, I agree with what Ms. Rush said, but it would leave very little room for growth. So I would, if possible, prefer to close 1 building as opposed to 2, because it does give us more flexibility.
Thank you. I do have
That answer your question?
It does. I have one more question before I share a couple comments. So closing the 1 building, we're still talking about Spalding, but I know you were looking into the feasibility of closing Squanicook instead of Spalding, if that was possible. And is there any new information regarding that?
So the big issue between the two is that, and again, this is not, this is the information I have now. I do not have anything that's definitive, but the challenges that we face are Spalding is rented. So it's leased. I shouldn't say rented. The school district leases Spalding. And the district owns Squanicook. The issue with Squanicook is that we also have a sewer line that is shared between Squanicook and Hawthorne Brook that goes to a leaching field. And using Squanicook as a potential rental property or selling it could be potentially an issue because of that shared line. The district also, between Hawthorne Brook and Squanicook, shares all of its fiber networking between the 2 buildings that's shared. So that could also potentially create an issue. You know, honestly, in looking at the 2 buildings, Spalding is larger. It does have an operational kitchen, where Squanicook, again, is district owned, and it's got, you know, a better HVAC system. It is more up to date, but it's not as large. But I think the challenge is going to be is that either way, a decision is going to have to be made with how the vacated building is handled. So for instance, in Spalding, that belongs to the town. What does the town of Townsend do with it? Are they able to do anything with it? And then if it's Squanicook, what can the district do? Because we would require special legislation to sell the building or to do something with the building than to use it for something other than a school. So again, I think we're looking at all options, and part of those options are the space, the costs of moving Spalding to Squanicook, the cafeteria issue. I don't think it would have much of an issue on that busing, on the tiered approach, because Spalding and Hawthorne Brook are still very, very close to each other. It's about a 3-4 minute ride. It would still be a single tier, and we'd have to adjust start and end times a little bit. But it's not something that would impact the busing as far as from everything that I've looked at. So it really comes down to just trying to get all the information, which I currently don't have, Because it's also been put out there that Spalding was gifted to the district and it must be used as a school if the district is going to, or gifted to the town of Townsend. It must be used as a school. If that is in fact true, and that's again something we're working on trying to get to the bottom of, then that may make the decision for us, or it may not. I don't, again, there's just some challenges between the two buildings. And I think that we really have to be cautious if we are going to close a building, that we're making the decision on closing the right one. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it leads me to another question, sorry. So where with the lease building, again, we can walk away from, and the lease, we say lease, but it's really $0. The district's not paying the town anything.
Right.
However, if we did decide to sell a building and sell Squanicook, I know you said it requires special legislation. What exactly does that involve? And I know you said in the past that we don't know where the money would go, but if it's owned by the district, I would think it would come back to the district or the towns if it was sold. So is that a potential to bring in revenue by selling the building, whether it does come back to us as a school district or to the towns, which would clearly also be helpful if the towns received revenue from a sale?
So I did speak to the MSBA about this, and I do not have a definitive answer. And the other thing that muddies the waters with selling a building or decommissioning a school, however you want to put it, whether you're selling it or moving out, is what happens. Is there any penalty if MSBA dollars were used to improve that school and it's no longer being used as a school? And that's something I've gotten some different answers. I have been told by some that in a budget crisis, they would likely move off of the penalty because the district was left with very few options. But that's coming directly from MARS. That's not the Mass Association of Regional Schools. That is not coming from MSBA. But people at MARS do have experience in dealing with these types of things, especially out in Western Massachusetts, where having to close schools does happen in areas where MSBA projects were conducted. So it's really not just getting the special legislation to sell the building. I agree. I think the money would likely go back to the town. But is there a penalty for the MSBA work that was done? Spalding, I can't speak to. There has certainly been some pretty extensive MSBA work done at Squanicook. It was going on when I got hired as superintendent for the first few years anyway.
Okay. When would the committee have more information on this? I know you said you're looking into what, selling would entail. I know you are meeting with people regarding the lines and the shared lines and whatnot.
I would say it's probably going to be a few weeks. And again, that's not necessarily helpful to us. And the other piece is that 6-month window of having to give the MSBA notice. If you're going to close a school, for all intents and purposes, that's March 1st. So I would say that between the budget hearing and the budget adoption, we don't have a lot of time, but we do have some time. And hopefully during that time, we'll be able to get some answers. But if you're asking if I plan on delving into this to get answers, I am. I will certainly do everything I possibly can to get the answers that the committee is seeking, for sure.
If we don't know if an override will pass before March 1st, how would we be proceeding with the previous plan? The last vote was for Plan B based on an override. However, if we don't know if we have an override by March 1st, how would we proceed with that Plan B?
I would say that To me, whether it's the option that was originally voted on by the school committee, or it's the option that I just shared with the entire committee, either way, if the override doesn't pass, it's going to entail substantial reductions. As we talked about before, if Ashby were to close and if Spalding were to close, if those were the two buildings, we are looking at a savings of approximately $900,000. We don't have a $900,000 problem. We have a $3.6 million problem. So if the override doesn't pass, I don't necessarily think that keeping a building open is necessarily going to have a huge impact on what's going to have to happen with regard to staffing. Because again, if you're looking at Ashby, it's under 400K. If you're looking at Squanicook, it's under 400K. Spalding's a little bit larger, closer to 600K. But these are, a quarter of the problem. Closing the buildings doesn't even get us, it gets us 20% there. And the rest is going to have to come from reductions. So I think either way, we have to proceed with a plan. A plan is if the override passes, and then a plan of if the override doesn't pass, this is the building or buildings we are going to close, and these are the reductions that we're going to have to make. That's ultimately up to the committee to make that decision on how far to go, at least from the closure standpoint. That's not within my decision-making power. The only thing that really is within my decision-making power is that when it comes to the point where I'm given a number and we have to make reductions, then I will be making presentations to the FinCom on what those reductions are and what they look like. But again, aside from buildings, there's not a lot of places to cut from this budget. I know, there are certainly some small areas, but that's not going to get us to where we need to be.
Okay. I'll make my comments about these new options quickly right now. I think they're both far better options than the option that was previously voted on for several reasons. I do, let's see, how do I want to say this? Again, I think both options are better, but I do understand the benefits of the option that Superintendent Morgan recommended. It basically checks several boxes that have been long-term issues for us. There would be a long-term budget savings, moving Ashby and Townsend K-1 in Ashby, between the staffing reduction and potential bus savings, that would be a long-term savings. It would also help with the community feel and inclusiveness of Ashby being part of a district and not feeling like they're being kicked out of the district, essentially. It would also help us retain that building space that we may certainly need in the future. And keep our options open, because no matter how the schools are configured and reconfigured, at least if we are keeping that building open, we'll have that space to use for that. And we'll address balanced class sizes, which I know has been an issue long before I came on. There was talk about redistricting and reconfiguring. So we would finally be addressing that piece as well, which has been an ongoing concern. And again, the biggest thing is equity within the district. And we wouldn't be negatively affecting the students with this plan. All of that being said, without voting for a new plan, clearly we're looking at options. We did not have all the information needed in December, and we don't have all the information we need right now. So I make a motion that we rescind our December 3rd vote to move forward with option 4 as Plan B, and we explore the feasibility of new options to vote on at a future meeting.
I second.
Okay. So before we do this, how many members are we missing? 4?
We're missing 2.
No, we're missing
Missing
3.
3,
3.
Oh,
Jill,
okay.
Tom, and Patrick.
Mhm.
And so I just want to make it clear to when we do this and for everyone to think, if we would take any type of vote and not have a member here, for instance, June, if we took a vote with Ashby and said to close it without you being present or any kind like
Right.
that.
But again, this is not a motion to close anything or do anything.
I mean,
I'd take back what we said so that we can look at other options, which the district is already looking at, but it's opening up that chance to have a new option that is equitable to everyone. So, I mean, we
Well-
could again and vote for the same option as before, but we would at least have more information if that's what we wanted to do. And we would have an opportunity to give everybody a chance to come to a new meeting with the new information.
well, and I think there is new information with all of these options that are continually coming out and exploring, as where the 2, I think, was as I'm going to put it, a nuclear option to close 2 schools in our district, that we gave Brad to look into that. And I think that's what he has been doing and coming up with more information to give to us.
That's not what the vote was last time. It was to move forward with option B, as you said during the press release. So we don't necessarily want to move forward with it. We want to be open to new options. We want to step back from what we said we would do and gather more information and make an informed vote.
I mean,
I know a couple other people have their hand up.
Just a point of order is like, we didn't have a vote for this building options on the agenda for tonight. Wasn't expected to, I wasn't expected to, to vote on this for tonight. I think he was updating the options that we had was the discussion, but like, I don't think it's appropriate to vote on this at this point.
Again, we're not voting on a new option tonight. That's not what the motion was.
You're asking me to vote on reversing a vote we've already made.
Which is within Robert's rules that we can do. Just to gather more information.
Not on the agenda. Do we need, is this if we're reversing a vote, is this a majority vote? Is this a super majority vote? Where does that stand?
Randy.
As far as Robert's rules, I had looked up, and I believe it's just a majority vote to reconsider or rescind a previous vote. It's slightly different to reconsider a vote, somebody who voted the way that the vote went. So in this case, affirmative for that would have to bring it back. To rescind, anybody can bring it up, and it's a majority vote to rescind a vote that had been taken before. So just that technical. I think this just opens up the opportunity for Brad to continue developing the options. I know the intent originally back in December was to be able to give Brad a direction to look into and see the feasibility of. And it quickly turned into a vote for that's how we were going to go for Plan B. So rescinding this right now because there are other viable options on the table, I think would be appropriate. And have all the options come back to us, as Brad is looking at the feasibility of the options for us to reconsider.
And to ensure that all members can be present at the next meeting and that we have the information that we need. And our questions are answered. And I'm again, very grateful to our district admin to be exploring these options. So it will give everybody time. Again, we wouldn't want to vote on one of these new options now because we want to be able to digest this. We want to get the information that we need. We want to get community feedback. And we'll be meeting again very soon. So, and can put up a meeting anytime within a posting date. So.
I agree.
All right.
And regarding the agenda under old business, the budget was listed and it said votes may be taken. So I think you're covered on.
We do have a motion.
Excuse me, what was that, Lisa? I'm sorry.
I feel very uncomfortable doing this. And I'm just going to state that for the record that I do feel very uncomfortable doing this. As I know that there are options being explored and that the option even that we had discussed and that we needed.
During our last meeting, it had been presented to us that we would be looking at an option to explore further feasibility. We're all in a long row on a stage where I could barely hear anybody that was 5 people away from me. And instead, a motion was made to proceed with a plan and a press release announced without the majority of the school committee being aware that we were proceeding with that. I had to go back and listen to the recording to find out what was actually said. So yeah, that was also uncomfortable, but I think at this point it would make sense to rescind this vote, get the information we need, and get everybody together, all 9 members again, and look at the options before us and then pick a direction. And again, with what Brad was saying, where we need to decide by March 1st, yet we won't know about an override. I think the last vote didn't make a lot of sense if it was override based, and it would be closing based on an override, yet we wouldn't know if an override passed when we had to make that decision. And in light of that, it seems very appropriate to rescind it until we can make a new vote. That
So we are not going to know about an override if it is approved by the communities until April 28th.
right. So how would we be able?
And there will be possibly 3 new members on this board who
how
can step in and
if the school was going to close by
budget.
March 1st, or 2 schools closed by March 1st.
I think if we went beyond March 1st, we would have to get permission from the Mass School Building Authority.
So I'm not saying don't close any schools. I'm just saying, let's get the appropriate information. Let's get the rest of the committee on. But in light of the date and wanting to explore other options, it's appropriate to rescind the vote that was taken on December 3rd.
Scheduling is becoming a nightmare where several members aren't able to make it. And members need to show up. We can't be changing meetings. I have changed several meetings for members to appropriate their time and their convenience. We can't be doing that to the public. And I know that, June, I've changed times for your meetings as well to help you accommodate some and do some remotely.
No, there was one meeting we did change to remote, even though we agreed all meetings should have remote access, but there was one that I had pneumonia and I did attend that meeting anyhow.
Yes, and
One time.
I understand emergencies come up for members, but these are critical votes that we need everyone available. Randy? Sorry, my voice is getting a little tense.
That's okay. I was just gonna kind of say, if rescinding this right now, it gives us a chance to make a much better motion. I think we can probably have a contingency. Brad, I think you would have to maybe talk with MSBA. Can we file with them, the intent to close a building contingent if we don't get an override vote in the April? Would that count as the 6-month notice to be able to do that, so that we can make a motion the next time on whichever option we have, saying that on April 28th, if we do not get the override, this is the plan that we're going to do, and give Brad permission to go to the MSBA with the possible closing of a building to meet the 6-month mark. Right now, we don't have that with the vote that was taken, and we have no way to have that contingency in a timely manner, because the events are opposite from what the vote was made for.
Any comments? We'll take a vote on this. Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
June,
Yeah.
Bill Berg,
Bill, you're muted.
or William Berg. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Randy Roush,
Yes.
Will Hackler,
No.
and myself is no. All right, moving on to policy.
For policy, I am pulling a few of these policies. There was a case against the new Title I requirements, and they have been pulled back. So policy ACA, ACE, ACF, ACF-R, and AC, I'm pulling back to policy because we need to revert back to what we were doing before for the Title IX requirements. So for this meeting right now, I am going to move that we approve IMG Animals in School, IJOA Field Trips, and IK Student Progress Reports to Parents and Guardians for a first reading.
I second.
That was Brandy and Lisa Bloom. Will?
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Bill Berg.
Yes.
All right. You're finished with policies there?
And that is all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Moving on to warrants. Patrick is not available. Those are the warrants he signed that are listed in the agenda. No report from negotiations and personnel teachers. No report from negotiation and personnel non-teachers. Community outreach liaisons. Any updates?
I gave mine already.
Okay. And I don't have an update from Pepperell as well, but they are looking for the March 10th meeting. Town meeting, and our next, or one of the, where we adopt the meeting or adopt the budget is the March 16th meeting, which is a Thursday. But I'm going to be sending out an email to change that possible meeting to the meeting to a last week in February. It's looking like a Wednesday, the 26th right now. But I'm waiting on a few people to put in their dates of availability. All right, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Randy, second.
Second.
All right. Will,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Bill Bird,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, good night.